So we decided that today, which is Memorial Day, it was a good day to winterize the cook stove and get some things done on it that we've just not had time to do with camp meeting and everything. And I just happened to think about recording this after I got this glass replaced. A friend of ours was putting some wood in the stove for us, and he accidentally broke the glass. It was cracked here on this corner right here, this way. And so we just replaced the glass. The gasket in there looked good, so we didn't have to replace that. But I just want to say, and my husband had mentioned this before we saw the note in the box with the new glass. We got new glass from the Ashland manufacturer, and they had a note on the new glass: caution, tighten only enough to hold. So whenever I took these bolts out, they were just barely over finger tight, and so they just have a little bracket here that holds them on. And so this glass is you can't tighten these bolts down very much or you'll crack the glass again. So I'm sorry I didn't video that. I just didn't think about it. We have a stone there, that fire brick, that needs to be replaced, but we're not going to replace that because on this side is where the water jacket goes to use your cook stove for your hot water, and it has short stones that are about this tall or a little shorter that go in there, and your water jacket will fit in here. It's a cast iron sleeve, and when we actually get ready to do that, I'll make a video on that too. So anyway, I'm just getting ready to kind of winterize it, clean it up. It's got some rusty spots on it, and so I'm just going to clean it up quick and get it ready for winter. But what I've done right now is I'm taking the brackets off of the back here. They've got a little set screw underneath here that you loosen with an Allen wrench. And I had 3 of them on here, and I'm just I'm taking those brackets off so that I can take the warming shelf off and actually get to the entire surface instead of leaving a little strip under here that's not treated. So let me go ahead and get that off, and then I'll show you. So you can see here along the back where the shelf was sitting, I've not gotten to that strip there where it has been sitting to condition it. That really needs to be cleaned and get that rust off. Otherwise you could actually damage the stovetop leaving that rust on there. So let me just show you what I do, and I think I covered this a little bit in my Ashland Cabin Tender cook stove review, but we'll do a little more thorough video of it today. Okay, I use these stainless steel wool scrubbers. You can also use a green Scotch-Brite pad, but I think all mine made it over to the ministry building to clean the stove at the ministry building. Whatever you use, whether it's this or Scotch-Brite, you want to make sure that it's dry. Don't use this with water on it because you're just going to add more rust to the surface. So you want to rough it up, and this one's actually a little damp. It's been in the dish strainer. But anyway, you want to rough up the surface and loosen up that rust, and then you can kind of wipe it off with a dry paper towel, or if you have a little broom set, you can do that. But just scrub this down good and loosen up all of that rust, especially back here on the back where I've not been able to get during the winter. I was thinking winterize the stove, but it's more summerize it because we're not going to use it. And I've really missed my wood stove in the summer because I just use it for everything. I cook on the surface, I cook on the inside, I dry my clothes next to it, I dehydrate bananas on the warming shelf or on the inside if the fire is not too hot. And then, Lord willing, this coming winter, we're going to heat our water with it. And we have some friends that already have theirs set up. I'd like to get over there and get a video made of theirs. They have the Baker's Choice wood cook stove, and they really enjoy theirs. I really enjoy ours too. But I'd like to do a review of theirs because they already have the water jacket in theirs. That's how they get their hot water. And so, anyway, so just scrub this all down, and I'll come back whenever I get most of the rust loosened. I just want to say that because this is the first time that I've removed the warming shelf here where I have not been able to treat and get the rust off, it has actually marked that. So I strongly encourage you to take that warming shelf off. The reason it gets the rust, of course, you know, you have the humidity issue, at least here in the South. But, you know, as you cook, you drop water on it and stuff, liquids, and it just, over time, it is going. This is a stainless steel top, and you will get some rust like that. So just loosen up all of that rust, and then we'll wipe it off, and then I'll show you the next step. Also, another thing that we will do as soon as we get time before the winter is to clean the stove out again, the chimney out again, and I do have that on our Ashland Cabin Tender review video of how we clean the chimney. If you have really bad spots, you can use one of these devices. If you do it very gently with a longer brush or a softer brush. Okay, the battery operated drill did a fairly decent job, but one thing I want to caution you of is don't bear down. Just let the weight of the front of the drill be all the pressure that you put on it. But it did a really nice job. It took a lot of this off the back here, and it's loosened up. You can still, you know, get messy on your hand there, so I'm going to take a dry paper towel and wipe a lot of that up. But what I wanted to caution you of when you do this, if you have a warming shelf, is be sure to clean the bottom of this warming rack too. Don't put something dirty and rusty back on something that you just cleaned. So I'm also going to clean off the bottom of this. I'll just wipe it down and maybe put a light coat of oil on this too. And it needs cleaning up. You know, you're busy and you don't get things wiped as thoroughly as you'd like to. So I'm going to clean that thoroughly, and I'm going to oil the surface here, and I'll show you that. And I'm going to use coconut oil. The reason that I like coconut oil is because I don't like to use motor oil, obviously, because that's, you know, petroleum. Some people use olive oil or other cooking oils, but I like coconut oil because it's going to be on here for a while, and coconut oil does not go rancid like other oils do, so it's not going to stink. And I have to smell that all summer long. So anyway, that's why I choose coconut oil. So let's move to the next step. For cleaning the bottom of the warming shelf, I just dampened a rag and put a little bit of Dawn dish detergent because this has some oil on it from where I have put oil on the surface of the stove before. And so I'll just scrub that off with the Dawn and then just kind of rinse it off a little bit. I noticed also a little bit of rust here along the top of the oven door, and so I'm just going to knock that off as well with the steel wool. And there's a little bit on the front which I'll gently touch up. And then, you know, a lot of people may not do this, but I'm going to put a light coat of olive oil here and on the stove door as well, just to kind of help preserve rust. You can actually get stove paint and repaint this, but it has to be specific stove paint. It has to be a high temperature paint. And then I'll show you in just a minute what I do on the inside of the oven. Just want to get that excess rust powder off. So it's not too bad. Okay, and then what I do, I have, this is my little coconut oil skillet that I use pretty much all the time. If we make popcorn in the air popper, we use this little cast iron skillet to melt our coconut oil. So I have some melted coconut oil here, and I'll just put a little bit on the surface, and we'll rub it in with a paper towel. May need a little bit more, but might be enough. And just work it in really well, especially along the back here where that warming shelf is going to mount. And I'm fairly generous with this. I'd rather err on the side of liberality when it comes to the oil on the surface here. What you're supposed to do once you put this oil on is get, I have one, but I can't put my hand on it right now. I don't know where it's at. You've seen those tablecloths that are fuzzy on one side and vinyl on the other side. You want to get one of those and put it with the fuzzy side next to the stove top, and that will keep the oil in there and keep it from rusting up again before you use the stove for next season. Big difference. Looks a lot better. Make sure to get the edges in the front. Last thing I did in here was dehydrate banana, so you can see, you know, some banana juice back there in the back, and little pieces that got burnt to a crisp as the fire got hotter. So I'm just going to sweep that out, and then I'll wipe it down, and I'll also, you know, there's a couple of rust spots. I'll scrub those down, and I'll put oil in here as well. And then on the door, I showed you that already. Just a good sweep out makes a big difference. You don't really have to clean, per se, Cookstove oven necessarily like you do a gas or electric oven, because it just gets so hot in there that it burns off anything that's on there. So you see that, I don't know if you put the light back on, you can see that the banana juice just swept right out. I need to sweep it a little bit better, but I just wanted to show you quick. There's a couple of rust spots, like right in here and right here by the door, where water has come down and gotten on the top of the door and into the oven. So I'll take care of that too with the oil, but that's pretty much it for the oven. It's very easy maintenance. These are very easy to maintain. One thing I do want to mention is when you're using the scrubbing pad on a painted surface, you just want to use light pressure, or, you know, on the stove door, there's a couple of rusty spots like here. You want to be very careful just to use light pressure, you know, just enough to get that off. You don't want to mess up your paint, which is pretty durable, but just saying. So now I'll have to move the light, but to do it thoroughly, but I scrubbed it a little bit, so I'm just going to sweep it out again just to get the main dust out. And you see we got quite a bit there, just rubbing the little scratch pad over it. So we'll get that out, and then I'll do a quick wipe down, and we'll put a slight coat of oil on this as well. A little too much pressure here. I scratched it a little bit. Eventually we'll have to paint this, but we'll be okay for right now. You just have to watch that area because it's going to be more prone to rust. So just a light coat. Now you may think, well, that's all going to smoke when you fire the stove up, and that's absolutely right. It will, but it doesn't last long, and you need fresh air when you fire a cook stove anyway, or any kind of wood stove. Just open the windows. It won't last long.